Welcome to Time to Press Pause. I'm your host, Ellen Williams, CEO of The Salient Strategist. I'm so pleased to announce the launch of Season 2. This season, there are a few changes and new things coming. First of all, we are now available on iTunes, and that's a big improvement for my audience. Second, we're also on C-Suite Network. And if you haven't heard of C-Suite Network, I certainly encourage you to check it out. Lastly, we've changed the title. Now it's time to press pause, real life stories from the C-Suite. And that opens us up to speaking with not just CEOs, but CFOs and COOs and all leadership across the organization. And they have powerful stories to tell. So welcome to Season 2. Time to press pause. Real life stories from the C-Suite. And today I'm speaking with
Robert Levin. Robert Levin is the chairman and co-founder of Work Better Now, a game-changing venture that provides US-based small to mid-sized businesses with exceptional talent from Latin America. Since 2018, WBN has empowered hundreds of businesses to thrive in the face of the talent crisis. Prior to co-founding WBN, Rob founded the New York Enterprise Report, a media company relied on by over 100,000 business owners and executives. The success of NYER drew national advertisers and led to the creation of the Small Business Awards for the tri-state area. Rob's understanding of SMBs drew widespread acclaim and also earned him national recognition, including Journalist of the Year from the U.S. Small Business Association. Before the New York Enterprise Report and after his career start as a Big Six CPA, Rob held key roles as CFO, COO, and CEO in fast-growing businesses with a track record of success and a focus on content-driven audience development. Rob Levin continues to be a driving force in the SMB space, helping businesses thrive and adapt in the face of changing dynamics.
Welcome, Robert, to Time to Press Pause.
Thanks for having me, Ellen. Great to see you.
It's great to see you too. It's been a while. We have known each other for probably around 20 years. We've been friends and colleagues, and I was so happy that you agreed to be a guest. And I am certainly looking forward to hearing your press pause story.
Yeah, I'm going to give you two stories. One, in a way, you were a part of. I started a media company in 2003 called the New York Enterprise Report. And it was a magazine, events, and that's where you and I worked together. I think you were in constant contact at the time and one of our bigger clients at the time. Anyway, it seemed like a very successful venture. We had national advertisers. We had, seems like every bank in New York and the cable companies, an audience of 100,000, mostly business owners. Our events were held in high regard. We had amazing people on the cover of our magazine, two of the sharks from Shark Tank. And the truth is, yeah, it was very successful from that standpoint and the impact that it made on the audience. But it was never really financially successful. And I just kept trying to grind it out. 10 years, 10 prime, I'll call them prime earning years. And at some point, well before I ended up exiting the magazine, it was a very small sale. A couple people were telling me, like, hey, how much longer are you going to do this? People who really knew what was going on. And at some point, I just stopped. I paused. And I said, you know what? I love this, but I can't keep doing it. And I decided that's it. I'm getting out. And then within 6 months, I found another home for the magazine. It wasn't the right home, but that's another story. Then I had some related businesses before I started to Work Better Now. That was a big moment for me. It took a while. And by the way, what I've realized is that because business owners come to me for counsel and advice all the time, is that people have to come to their own, particularly entrepreneurs, they have to come to their own conclusions. You can suggest, you can say, hey, here's my experience, here's what I'm seeing, but people have to come to my own conclusions, and I did too. So that was my first pause story. The second one, in 2018, with my partner, I started Work Better Now. We provide remote talent from Latin America for US-based small and mid-sized businesses. And when we first started, though, we were just providing executive assistance for business owners. That's all we wanted to do. And our motto was every business owner should have an assistant. And one of our clients, I wasn't involved in a lot of the details in the company. My partner was really doing that. I was really the face of the company and driving business in. And I looked and this was a friend of mine and he had 4 people. And I said, I know he's busy, but does he really need 4 assistants? So I called him up and his name is Larry. And I said, Larry, you got 4 assistants. What's going on? He goes, no, I don't have 4 assistants. He goes, Rob, I don't know if you know how good these people are. The first one I hired as an assistant, turns out she's great at marketing. So I put her in marketing. And then she trained the next person I hired from you. And that person was great at sales. I put her in inside sale, so on and so forth. He now has 8 or 9 of our people, and he's referred 60 clients to us. I think he's our biggest referral source. But I paused after that. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I got to pausing. But I paused after that. And then I realized that we had a much bigger opportunity to make a bigger impact on these companies by going broader. Instead of just providing assistance, we now provide 40 different roles. But had I not paused after that call and thought about it and digested it, but within a week, we made the decision that we were going to go much broader. And there's a lot involved in that, right? It affects all parts of our business. But we made that decision in a week, but it happened because I paused after that call and said, what's the impact of this? What does this mean? I think it's critical that business owners have time in their week to sit and reflect. Sit with I don't know if you'll be able to see it here, with an old-fashioned paper and pen, because when you write things out, your brain's working differently. And just, hey, what am I seeing? What am I observing? Turn off all the distractions. Even if you do it for 20 minutes a week, I'll be shocked if you don't come up with a really interesting conclusion that will impact your business or your life.
That was a quick 2 stories and important 2 stories. The first one, you talked about how after 10 years, you really had to pause and see if this was feasible for you to continue. That's a pause. That's like a full stop. And then made the decision to sell. The second one, I really want to focus on because that seems like it's really relevant to everyone. Certainly your first pause is, right? If things aren't going well, stop and think. But I love that your second pause story is directly related to customer feedback. Obviously, it was valuable to you. Have you employed that throughout your career as far as really being able to listen to customer feedback and then take action on it?
Have I done that throughout my career? Yes, and maybe too much. So back when I had the magazine, I was always asking people questions. And quite frankly, I probably overreacted to a lot of their comments, meaning, oh, wouldn't it be great if you did this? And then I would go back and run to the editorial team, like, we should do this, and like, stop the presses, which was not the right way to do things. Now, because I pause, I'm able to say, okay, what did I just hear? What's the impact? And not everything that you get feedback on requires you to take action on it, right? But, maybe it's also because I'm a little bit older now. I don't know. But I will tell you that when I started meditating 10 years ago, that's had a huge impact on my life, not only in business, but certainly on my personal life too, where I don't just react now, right? I'm a little bit more deliberate in processing things and thinking things through a little bit. And also, we talked about having the time, at least 20 minutes, but it really should be a few hours every week. Every business owners really have to allocate that time. And I'm going to tell you why. The pace of change in business keeps increasing, and the pandemic really accelerated that pace of change. And, business today is fundamentally different in so many different ways than it was 5 years ago. Customer expectations have increased. The way people want to be managed has increased. The way you market has changed considerably in 5 years. And somebody in the business needs to be thinking about these things constantly. And what do we need to do in order to harness this change instead of being a victim of change? And that's usually the business owner, because there's probably nobody else that's doing it in the business. Maybe if you're lucky, you have somebody else that's thinking about this. And to do that takes time. And that kind of comes back to why we started Work Better Now. We believe every business owner should have an assistant. Because if you are doing your administrative work instead of doing your strategic work or talking to your top customers or talking to your people or focusing on your culture, you're making a huge mistake. At the very least, you're probably not capitalizing on all the growth opportunities. And you may be putting your company at risk because if we talk about change, think about something like AI, which Peter Diamandis, the entrepreneur and guy behind X Prize, he said businesses will either be using AI throughout their organizations in 2030 or they'll be out of business. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but the sentiment is definitely on point. And you got to have the time in your week to think about these things. Otherwise, you are putting your business at risk.
I totally agree. I have spoken to a lot of CEOs and a lot of business owners, and depending on the size of the organization, the CEO slash founder slash business owner, they take a lot of responsibility on their shoulders, and sometimes to the point of micromanaging and getting in the weeds. And it doesn't allow the amount of time they need, from 20 minutes to a couple hours, to digest. And I really appreciate what you said, that years ago you took customer feedback maybe a little, you moved a little too fast on it. And that happens a lot too. People give you advice and you think, oh, that's the answer. But it may not. It may have been the answer for them, but it might not be the answer for you. And certainly having more experience, you said we're both a little older, right? You learn, you just learn from those experiences, and hopefully you're able to disseminate when the advice resonates and when the advice really isn't fitting what you feel is right for your business.
Yeah, and those pauses help there, right? Because you might pause and take action, but you might pause and say, I don't need to take any action with this, right? This is not something that's important to me right now. But you got to take that pause instead of just reacting.
Exactly. And I love that your business is all about allowing business owners to have that time to think and the time to pause, so that they're not doing everything that their business requires. They're doing the things their business requires them to do.
Yeah, that's how we started the business. Now, again, because we're doing so many different roles. By the way, every business owner has to have an assistant. As Jack Daly says, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant, or you are one, I think is the way Jack says it. But we're going beyond that now with our clients, because it's very hard to find just talent that wants to work these days. And we're able to provide that. It just so happens that there's amazing talent in Latin America. And we're on a mission to help as many amazing professionals and as amazing companies fulfill their dreams. And we're doing that by matching up these awesome companies, many of them. In fact, we're talking with one of your colleagues shortly, a mutual friend, and these amazing professionals that are in Latin America that are dedicated to helping the companies that they work for achieve their mission and their goals. I felt like I was making an impact with the magazine, and I know we did many years ago. This is a little bit more of a direct impact. And a lot of these things, the idea came from taking some pauses. We pivoted by taking pauses. It's really critical to do. And, I mentioned meditating, but getting my first assistant right around when I sold the magazine also made a huge impact, because by not doing all of these administrative things, not only did I have more time, but I had more mental space, because I didn't have to think about these things. They were no longer, and they are no longer, my responsibility. They were the responsibility of my assistant, and he just gets it done. And I can now focus more of my time, not all of it, but more of my time on these high-level issues that my company's depending on me for. Our clients are depending on us for, and our remote professionals, they're depending on me to be thinking about where the market's going and all that stuff. Pausing led us to create something called the WBN Academy, which we piloted earlier this year, which is a continuous learning program so that we can provide our professionals with more capabilities that they can introduce into our clients' businesses. And that only happens because I sit at least a couple times a week with a notebook. Sorry, you can't see it, and a pen. And I think, well, where are the markets going? Where's business going?
Okay, so it sounds like your mission has really been your mission throughout. The first with the magazine, it's
Yeah.
always been to help small businesses, and now this business really fine tunes that mission where you can deliver services and deliver talent that actually
Yeah.
help those businesses do what your mission is, which to help and grow. And by the way, I'm writing down, it's called a remarkable.
Remarkable.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not paper because I'm also an SEA sustainability expert. So I try to reduce my emissions, but the remarkable is yeah, you need that tactile, you need that writing and the way it directly relates to the way you think. Well, I think you gave me more than two stories. Sounds like you pause pretty frequently, and it's
Right.
been extremely beneficial for you. So I do want to congratulate you on the Inc. 5000. You've got the logo up, and I appreciate the pride you have in achieving that. And I appreciate your mission. We have similar missions. I've always been one that wants to support and help businesses of all sizes. And certainly my current business is about getting the CEO out of the weeds. So we definitely have that in common. I really appreciate your press pause stories. You've given great advice for CEOs, founders, business owners, however you self-identify. And I really appreciate you being here today on Time to Press Pause.
Thanks for having me, Ellen, and it's great to catch up with you too.
Thank you so much for joining us on our first episode of Season 2. To learn more about Robert Levin, go to workbetternow.com. To learn more about me, go to thesalientstrategist.com. And please join us again wherever you listen to your podcasts.